What happens when the heart of your enemy's strategic air force is no longer out of reach? What if the very air bases that once launched missiles into your cities could be silenced before the next wave ever took off? On June 6, 2025, Ukraine didn't just cross another red line, it shattered the illusion that Russia's most guarded military assets were safe. In a daring and meticulously coordinated operation, Ukraine struck deep inside Russian territory. They focused on targeting none other than the important airbase, the Engels-2. It is the nerve center of Moscow's long-range bomber fleet. Home to the Tu-160 Blackjack and Tu-95 MS Bear bombers, Engels-2 has long symbolized Russia's ability to strike across continents. But now, its security has been pierced, not once, but repeatedly. Is Ukraine changing the rules of modern warfare? How has it developed the capability to strike hundreds of kilometers behind enemy lines with such accuracy and consistency? And what does this mean for the future of Russia's strategic air operations? Today, we're going deep into the latest June 6 strikes, what happened, how it was done, and why it's a turning point in the war. The Engels-2 airbase isn't just another target. Since the Cold War, it has served as the central hub for Russia's strategic bomber force. From these runways, Tu-95 MS bombers have launched volleys of cruise missiles into Ukrainian cities. The newer and more advanced Tu-160, with its supersonic speed and stealth features, represents the cutting edge of Russia's nuclear-capable aviation. Over the past 2 years, Engels-2 has functioned as a critical platform for long-range strikes, playing a key role in Moscow's efforts to degrade Ukrainian infrastructure and morale. That is precisely why Ukraine has made Engels-2 a priority. This wasn't the first time Ukraine struck Engels-2. In fact, it followed a pattern of increasingly bold operations. Back in January and March of 2025, Ukrainian drones targeted the Kombinat Crystal Fuel Depot, a facility that specifically refines and supplies aviation-grade fuel for strategic bombers like the Tu-160. Those earlier attacks served as a warning shot, a sign that Ukraine was shifting its strategy from defense to strategic offense. Then, on June 1st, Ukraine launched Operation Spiderweb. Operation Spiderweb wasn't just a single strike, it was a sprawling, synchronized assault across multiple fronts. The operation targeted a wide array of Russian air bases, stretching from the Black Sea coast to the deep interior. Using a mix of long-range drones, domestically built loitering munitions, and covertly launched FPV systems, Ukraine managed to hit airfields in Bryansk, Lipetsk, Voronezh, and even as far east as Saratov. Engels-2 was among the crown jewels of this campaign. What made Operation Spiderweb especially impressive was the use of decentralized launch platforms. Ukrainian teams smuggled drone units into Russian territory using civilian vehicles, launching them from forests, truck beds, or even abandoned buildings. Each drone team acted semi-independently but followed a larger operational timeline. By launching dozens of drones simultaneously from different locations, Ukraine effectively overwhelmed localized Russian air defense clusters. The result? Multiple successful strikes in areas thought to be untouchable. The operation also demonstrated Ukraine's ability to fuse satellite intelligence, real-time surveillance, and artificial intelligence-based targeting algorithms. Instead of merely striking static installations, drones were seen homing in on parked aircraft, fuel tankers, and radar systems, all high-value mobile targets. This level of coordination reflected not just military competence, but a maturing national security infrastructure capable of planning and executing complex deep strike missions. June 6th marked the continuation and escalation of that strategy. According to the Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff, this latest wave of strikes focused on enemy airfields and other important military facilities, especially those staging bombers, escort fighters, and aerial refueling aircraft. Notably, alongside Engels-2, Ukraine also struck Diaghilev airfield in the Ryazan region. That base hosts support aircraft vital to extending the range and endurance of Russian missile strikes. The implication was clear. Ukraine was no longer content to shoot down cruise missiles mid-air. It was now aiming to stop them at their source. Footage emerging after the strikes revealed massive fires erupting at the Engels base, with thick plumes of smoke rising from what appeared to be a fuel depot. Saratov Governor Roman Busargin quickly issued a statement claiming there were no casualties, but emergency crews were mobilized and on high alert. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry claimed to have intercepted 174 Ukrainian fixed-wing drones and shot down 3 Neptune MD cruise missiles. Yet, the undeniable damage at Engels-2 suggested that several Ukrainian weapons had slipped through. Military analysts point to the significance of these developments. Ukraine has demonstrated a growing capability to conduct precise, long-range strikes that bypass or overwhelm Russian air defenses. These aren't just isolated incidents. They represent a concerted campaign to systematically degrade Russia's strategic airstrike capabilities. Damaging fuel storage and bomber infrastructure directly affects the sortie rate of Tu-95MS and Tu-160 bombers. With less access to aviation fuel and secure staging areas, Russia's ability to carry out sustained missile barrages on Ukrainian targets is under direct threat. Even more concerning for the Kremlin is what these attacks reveal about the state of its air defenses. The repeated success of Ukrainian drones and missiles in breaching Russian airspace and hitting Engels-2 raises questions about the effectiveness of Russia's layered defense systems. S-400s, Pantsires, and electronic warfare units were supposedly designed to prevent exactly this scenario. And yet, Ukraine's innovative use of low-flying, small-profile UAVs has exposed vulnerabilities in even the deepest parts of Russian territory. Defense observers argue that these are not just tactical failures, but systemic ones. Weaknesses that can be further exploited by Ukraine and perhaps even NATO planners. In the aftermath of the June 6 strikes, there were unconfirmed reports that Russian strategic bombers were being quietly relocated to more remote air bases in the Far East. Satellite imagery and flight tracking data indicate that several Tu-95 and Tu-160 aircraft have been moved to airfields far from Ukraine's reach. But this comes at a cost. For example, launching a Tu-95 missile mission from Siberia adds up to 23 hours of flight time, significantly reducing Russia's operational tempo. The added strain on aircraft maintenance, fuel logistics, and crew readiness cannot be overstated. It turns each mission into a costly, resource-intensive endeavor, a burden Ukraine hopes to multiply with each successful strike. A key reason behind Ukraine's success lies in its growing mastery of asymmetric warfare. These aren't billion-dollar fighter jets or hypersonic missiles. These are small, cost-effective FPV drones and domestically modified UAVs, launched from mobile trucks and hidden launch pads. As Operation Spiderweb showed, Ukraine has learned to smuggle drone teams deep into Russian territory, where they can launch attacks at close range, bypassing long-distance defenses entirely. Paired with ISR assets and satellite surveillance, Ukrainian forces are now able to strike high-value targets with remarkable precision. In addition to drones, Ukraine has employed Neptune MD cruise missiles in coordinated waves, overwhelming Russian air defense sectors. The principle is simple: saturation. A few drones may be intercepted, but not all, especially not when multiple threats approach from various angles and at different altitudes. Each successful strike not only damages physical infrastructure, but also chips away at the psychological sense of invulnerability that deep Russian bases once held. No longer can Moscow assume that distance equals safety. Ukraine's arsenal for deep strikes doesn't stop at drones and Neptune cruise missiles. The country has also increasingly relied on domestically produced systems, such as the Grim-2 ballistic missile, as well as modified Soviet-era drones like the Tu-141 Strij. These legacy systems, retrofitted with modern navigation and explosive payloads, offer a cost-effective alternative to expensive imported weapons. While less precise than Western systems, their use in saturation attacks makes them particularly effective in overwhelming Russian air defenses. Moreover, Ukraine has integrated its foreign-supplied weapons with homegrown innovations. Western-provided components such as optical sensors, satellite navigation modules, and encrypted communication links have been adapted to suit locally built UAVs. This fusion of imported tech and domestic ingenuity has enabled Ukraine to produce strike platforms tailored for stealth and precision. Some Ukrainian drone teams have even employed Starlink-based guidance and battlefield coordination in real time, enhancing target acquisition and adaptability during missions. At the tactical level, Ukraine has also refined its targeting strategy. Rather than attempting to destroy the bombers themselves, which are usually well protected or parked in reinforced shelters, Ukraine has focused on fuel storage, munitions depots, and key infrastructure that keeps these aircraft operational. The idea is to render the airbase inoperable, even if the bombers survive. In a sense, Ukraine is turning Russia's own military doctrine against it. Degrade the enemy's logistics, and the weapons can't fly. The broader implications of these strikes are profound. Ukraine is no longer just defending its airspace, it is shaping the air war. By proving it can reach and damage Russia's strategic bomber fleet, Kyiv is directly undermining one of Moscow's key military advantages. The knock-on effects ripple through the Kremlin's war plans, potentially reducing the frequency and intensity of missile attacks on Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. Every Tu-95 that stays grounded is a barrage that doesn't fly. There's also a morale component. For Russian commanders, the knowledge that even Engels-2 isn't safe introduces an element of insecurity. For the Ukrainian public, these attacks are a sign of strength, resilience, and technological ingenuity. And for Western allies, they offer proof that their investments in Ukraine's drone programs and intelligence infrastructure are yielding tangible strategic results. Predictably, Russia has responded with a vengeance. Following the June 6 strike, Moscow launched another massive barrage of Shahed-136 drones and Iskander missiles across Ukraine, targeting cities and energy infrastructure. These retaliatory strikes show that Russia remains capable of inflicting pain, but they also suggest a reactive stance, an effort to hit back for the sake of optics, rather than a well-coordinated campaign. Behind the scenes, Russia has begun rethinking its strategic posture. Reports indicate renewed efforts to harden air bases, build decoys, and improve drone detection systems. Yet even these responses highlight the problem. Ukraine has forced Russia into a defensive crouch. Every bomber moved eastward, every depot fortified, every fuel tank camouflaged is a resource redirected from offensive action. The NATO alliance is paying close attention. Ukraine's ability to breach deep into Russian airspace has implications far beyond the Donbass. It reveals vulnerabilities in Russia's broader air defense architecture, weaknesses that could be exploited in any future confrontation involving NATO. Additionally, Ukraine's success demonstrates the battlefield value of small, networked drone systems that can swarm and strike with near-zero delay. Western defense industries are already studying these methods to inform their own doctrines. As for aid, these strikes are a powerful argument for continued support. They show that with the right tools, even low-cost ones, Ukraine can inflict strategic damage. The ripple effect could include increased funding for drone production, ISR platforms, and electronic warfare systems. Ukraine's effectiveness in this new era of warfare is likely to influence how future wars are planned, fought, and funded. In conclusion, Ukraine's June 6th strikes against Engels-2 and Diaghilev airfields mark more than just another successful operation. They represent a maturing military strategy, one that blends precision, innovation, and psychological impact. With each wave of drones and missiles, Ukraine is redrawing the map of vulnerability inside Russia. These attacks are a testament to Ukraine's growing ability to shape the conflict on its own terms, not just defend but disrupt. As the war evolves, this capacity to reach deep into enemy territory could very well become the defining factor in shifting the strategic balance. Thanks for watching. What do you think these strikes mean for the future of modern warfare? Let us know in the comments below.